Hello, Waterloo Region. You're listening to Meet the Candidate on CKMS-FM 102.7 Radio Waterloo. My name is Bob Jonkman. In this episode, we meet Christopher Nuhn, an independent candidate for Kitchener Centre. In Meet the Candidate, Radio Waterloo provides 25 minutes of free airtime to the Waterloo Region candidates running in the Ontario provincial election. This is not an interview, but 25 minutes of unstructured time. Candidates could tell you about their party platform, the local Waterloo Region issues they'll be tackling, why they're running, or what they do outside of politics. Note that the views expressed are not necessarily those of the Radio Waterloo Board of Directors, volunteers, sponsors, or advertisers. Now, let's meet the candidate, Christopher Nuhn.
I'll start with who I am. I'm a Kitchener native, born and raised here. I've been in Kitchener and Waterloo most of my life. I have a family man. I'm a family man. I'm married. I have a beautiful wife, 3 beautiful children. I'm active in my community. My diverse professional background is full of various. It's full of various different jobs that I've done in the past, such as computer IT, logistics. I've been involved in the music and arts. I've also, my experience spans multiple roles, such as a business owner and customer service representative and technician. On a personal note, I'm a devoted Christian Lutheran with a deep love for my family and faith. And when I'm not out there helping others, you can find me relaxing or spending time with my family and friends. The reason I'm running for your consideration as a candidate is I'm tired of politics as usual, politicians giving big promises and perpetuating the status quo, failing to deliver on those promises, and instead of living up to those promises, all we see is more taxes and more disparity in our community and in our country. I'm not really happy with the direction our community is going and with the direction our country is going in, and that's why I'm running. I'm here to bring a fresh perspective, a commitment to transparency, a willingness to listen to your concerns, and address the issues that we face firsthand, not by addressing the symptoms, but by addressing the root causes. Because if we continually just address the symptoms, we will continually have the symptoms. If we find out what the causes are of these issues, such as homelessness in tent cities, food disparity, the price of gas, cost of living. Well, I'll tell you, it's really something that hits dear to me, and I'm sure it hits dear to you. We need transparency. We need to have a willingness in government to listen to the concerns of our community. So often do we have politicians going out asking for your vote, and our community is full of great people with great ideas, and they have great ideas to help fix the issues we face firsthand, and we deliver those ideas to our politicians. Do they get listened to? They might get listened to. Do they get implemented? Do they get followed up on? Absolutely not. And for that reason, I'm decided to throw my name in as your independent choice for this region. I would promise to work hard to find real solutions to the housing crisis, tent cities, food insecurity, and the rising cost of living, life's unexpected challenges that we all face in different ways as a community. And as a community, we are stronger united than with fighting with others. Together, I believe we can build a brighter future for all of our people here in Kitchener Centre, the Waterloo region, and our Ontario and our country as a whole. With an independent vote, we can reunite our community and put the interests of the citizens above those of the big parties and elites. Now, for some of you, I might sound as a radical, but what we need is radical change in politics, a willingness to listen to others, a willingness to work with others, work with all levels of government, not be fighting with them, because fighting doesn't get results. At least working together, in my opinion and my belief, working together with all levels of government would yield better results than fighting with them. Sorry, my voice is a little bit dry. So, what do we see? We see issues with, when I talk to people in the community, we have issues that everybody's concerned about, like climate change, healthcare, taxes, and rights and governance. With green initiatives such as climate change or what we used to call environmental concerns, all the parties promise big results and action on climate. But do they follow through? Maybe. But I've seen what following through means with the big government parties. Following through means more tax dollars out of your pocket going to elites and special interests. How would I change that? Well, for me, I believe green initiatives start at home. And instead of taxing you, I would prioritize action plans such as resident-led and community food gardens so that we would create incentives for people to grow their own food in their gardens or yards, such as carrots or potatoes or tomatoes. You could have apple trees. You could have any number of garden variety plants that suitably grow in the great soil we have in the region. It would cost very little to implement these initiatives and to give the community a chance to grow. With growing your own food, you could then trade with others. If you had tomatoes, you could trade your tomatoes for potatoes or carrots. This would intensify our greenness and commitment towards the environment in our community. I would lead and champion urban forestation programs by planting trees and giving incentives and abilities for people to do that. How do we get there? Well, we need to educate the people. We need to realize that everyone has a choice, but are we getting heard? Maybe not, maybe so. I know that people have a great desire for change in this region. Kitchener and Waterloo have been Liberal strongholds for decades. And up until recently, it has pretty much been Liberals and sometimes Conservatives. But in the last elections, we have elected the Green Party federally and provincially. And while the Green Party champions climate change and action, I've seen very little of that. Our issues with homelessness and tent cities are getting worse. The cost of food is getting worse. And the total income disparity, we're making more money than ever. But our cost of rents are higher than ever. Our food bills are higher than ever. People don't have discretionary income. When bread costs $5, your butter costs $6, $7, $8. And if you can't afford to buy bread and butter, you can't afford to do the things you like going out to eat out, going to the movies, spending a little bit of extra money on your kids, or doing things that you used to do. Everybody's had to cut back on the things they like to do because our economy, frankly, it's gone down the toilet, and it's very sad to see. We have a major issue with healthcare. I've been told by many people that they do not have access to healthcare. I can confirm this. When I needed to go to the hospital, I dislocated my shoulder a couple years ago. I had to spend 10 hours in the waiting room before I was seen by a doctor. I know that people are now spending even longer in the hospital before they are even seen or consulted with by a nurse or a doctor. Up to 10, 12 hours, 16-hour wait times in the waiting room. It's unacceptable. We have a doctor crisis, and none of the big parties actually offer real solutions to this. They tell you that we're going to give you more access to health care, but I haven't seen that in action. I haven't seen a real plan. My ideas for that would be to tap into our skills of the internationally trained doctors we have in Ontario, who have come from other countries. They come here from places like Panama or Colombia, different countries all over the world. And they come here for a brighter future in the Canadian dream. But when they get here, they end up working as taxi drivers or in the supermarket, or with a little bit more hard work, they end up getting fast-tracked to be a nurse. So we have nurses that are internationally trained doctors, and we have cab drivers that are internationally trained doctors. They're not doing the job and profession that they trained for. If we could cut the red tape with the college, the Union of Colleges and Doctors in Ontario, we could, excuse me, my voice is very dry. We could fast track a program to get the international doctors the accreditation they deserve. I vow to put the people's interest above my own, as opposed to self-serving any party candidates. Independence is your voice amplified. With an independent voice, you wouldn't have me serving big parties and special interests. I would be listening to my constituents. I wouldn't vote on any bill without receiving a majority of the consensus of the people who voted for me, and that means you. With rights and governance, we would champion citizen involvement in responsible decision-making. We would hold conferences with the community about proposed bills to get your input. We would ensure that any government decision-making processes are open and accessible and easy to understand. So often than not, we have these bills that sound like they have a good title, but there's always legislation tucked away in there to raise your taxes and to serve interests other than that of the community, to give your money away to other countries, other interests, or to put it into the hands of, special interest lobbyists. I would have accountability. I would hold elected officials and bureaucrats responsible for their actions and decisions. I would have citizen participation, fostering a culture of inclusive governance where citizens can have their voice heard. We have so many great ideas from our citizens in regards to housing, in regards to addressing the homeless situation. And a lot of people may think that the people living in the encampments and tent cities are responsible for their own issues, and they're there either by choice or because they're drug addicts. Well, that might be the case in some cases. However, many people in these encampments and in the tent cities are faced with this cold, hard reality that they've either lost their job due to the crumbling economy, or they've been priced out of their apartments. They can no longer afford to rent. And when you get that far down, it's very hard to get back up, especially if your government and the people who are supposed to be working for you don't care. Now, I think we need a meaningful voice in shaping policy decisions. My promises to you would be I would not vote on any bill that would unfairly tax our community or add extra burdens to our community. I would work to amend any bill that is already in place to either raise taxes or burden us in ways such as, well, there's so many ways that these things burden us. What I bring to the table here is different than any of your big choice candidates. I would implement a path for full participatory participatory direct democracy in our riding. That means consultation becomes an obligation. I would not vote upon any policy that comes before us without first obtaining the majority of consensus. And I know I said that before. However, I think it's very important that we all have a choice in how our country is shaped. I believe our city and our community is at the precipice. If we're electing the Greens, which may be fair, it means we are all fed up with the status quo. And I am here delivering you a choice, not of the big parties, but a community-first agenda where we can have sustainable development, prioritizing fiscal responsibility and reducing waste, and ensuring efficient resource management. Now, not everything like carbon taxes or garbage collection would fall under my preview, but I would work with every level of government to make your voices heard. I would work with the federal government. I would work with the regional government of Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge to help make this a better place to live. Canada in 1992, I remember growing up, was considered the best country in the world to live in. Now I believe we're country number 35. How far we have fallen in the past 30 years. It's quite astounding from coming from the best country in the world to a country where people are actively trying to escape. And for me, that's sad because I love my country, I love the community, I love the people in it. I personally have no political aspirations. I'm a businessman. I work from home and from a shop. And I made this change 11 years ago to take control of my own life and to provide a better life for my family and to make myself more accessible for them, as opposed to working 12-hour days for a company that paid me very little and didn't respect my time or my choices. So when we have the vote on Thursday the 27th. Now I looked up some information about the last by-election. We have about 90,000 registered voters here in the Kitchener Centre riding, with last election being in 2023 with the resignation of Laura May Lindo. We had about 22,000 people come out and vote. That's less than a quarter of the electorate voicing their concerns. And I know more people than that in the region are actually upset with the status quo. Why do they not vote? Well, maybe they're busy. Maybe they just don't care about the vote. But I think what's really the issue is the disparity, thinking that their vote doesn't matter. With an independent candidate, you can send your message to Queen's Park and to Ottawa that we are sick and tired of the status quo and that we want real change and accountability in government. We want a responsible government, not an autocratic government that tells you that you need big government and that the nanny state will take care of you and you will own nothing and be happy. Now, it may sound like a radical idea, but it can be done. We currently have the backing of wearethechange.ca. It's an initiative to run independent candidates of all walks of life, Canadians across our province and across our country, to take our power and give our voice back to the people. All independent candidates are working for you. At least I would hope they are, and I can assure you that I am. I'll put Kitchener community first. I'll take care to listen to your needs and to listen to you directly. If you need to call me, you can call me at 226-600-6292. I would take your call. It would be helpful if you're going to call me, and if you're going to call me, to text me first to let me know you're going to call me so I can make the time for you, or I don't think you're one of those people just trying to call me up to sell me something or scam me out of money like I'm sure everybody's gotten those calls. However, I put that out there to be a real advocate for change for you. And this is sort of like a like a David and Goliath story. I'm running this campaign on a dime. I do not have the backing of the big parties. The mainstream media generally does not want to include me and give my voice attention. They don't want your voice represented in government. They are the big lobbyists and special interests that we speak of. With an independent candidate, I will work for you tirelessly. You will not see big lawn signs out for my name. I honestly don't have a party spending thousands of dollars putting money out for campaign ads and radio ads. And if you do see an ad or a flyer somewhere, take the time to read it and consider voting Christopher Nuhn on Thursday, February the 27th. Voting is open till 6 p.m. You can find out more about me on votemate.com. Votemate is a Canadian-led initiative to inform voters of their candidates and where their polling locations are. Again, the Elections Ontario website is a great resource to find out who your candidates are and your polling locations. It's more important than ever that you get out to vote. And if my message rang true to you, or if you care enough, our campaign is mostly word of mouth, boots on the ground, feet in the streets, talking to people, going into local businesses, introducing myself. And well, I've only been campaigning for less than 2 weeks. I got on the ballot the day before the deadline. The response generally from the community has been very positive, and people have a real desire for change. And even if they're not voting for me, they've been very supportive and very friendly, taking the time to smile and share the choice that you have another choice other than the status quo and the big government. So if you're tired of the status quo as I am, well, consider voting for me this February the 27th before 6 p.m. as the polls close at that time. Together, we can make our community a better place. We can make Canada a better place. I'm not here to tell you what the problems are or how bad they're getting. They've already gotten so bad. I've thrown my name in the ring because if we're not represented, if our voice is not heard, then we are just going to keep going deeper and deeper down this hole. And that's not what I want. I want to bring you a choice for change. So I would like to thank CKMS for this time here today. It's very important that we get the word out. And if you're watching this on YouTube later, I would appreciate a share. You can find me on Facebook at Christopher Nuhn, candidate for Independent Kitchener Centre.
You've been listening to Christopher Nuhn, the independent candidate for Kitchener Centre on Meet the Candidate. The views expressed were those of the candidate, not necessarily those of the Radio Waterloo Board of Directors, volunteers, sponsors or advertisers. All Waterloo Region candidates were invited to meet the candidate, but some candidates have declined to appear on the radio, and some have not responded at all. Meet the Candidate airs every weekday at 9 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. until Tuesday, the 25th of February, 2025 on CKMS-FM 102.7 Radio Waterloo. Remember, the election is on Thursday, the 27th of February. Show notes, podcast, and video will be available shortly on the Radio Waterloo website at radiowaterloo.ca/MTC. The show is produced by me, Bob Jonkman, in the studios of CKMS-FM. The theme music is Falling Sky by Jason Shaw of Audionautics.com and used under a Creative Commons Attribution Only 4.0 International License.